Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Braja Janarandana. Yashodanandana Braja Janarandana. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Mr. Paramahansa Parvajikacharya Ashtottara Shri Srimad Divine Grace Sri Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parvajikacharya Ashtottara Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavin Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Nectar of Instruction Ki Jai. Shri Upadeshamrita Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 12th day of November 2018 in SanDiego, we're reading from the Nectar of Instruction, Upadeshamrita by Srila Rupa Goswami, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are beginning text 5 today. Krishneti yasya giditang manasadriyeta dikshasti chet pradhanabhishcha bhajantam isham shushushaya pradhanavigyam ananyamanya Nindadi shunya vidam ipsata sanghalabdhya Krishneti yasya giditang manasadriyeta dikshasti chet pradhanabhishcha bhajantam isham Shushushaya bhajanavigyam ananyamanya. Bhajanavigyam ananyam. Okay. Nindadi shunya vidam ipsata sanghalabdhya. Krishneti yasya giditang manasadviyeta. Dikshasti chet pradhanabhishcha bhajantam isham. Shushushaya bhajanavigyam ananyamanya. Nindadi shunya vidam ipsata sangha labdhya. Krishneti yasya giridham manasadriyeta. Dikshasti chet pradhanabhischa bhajantam isham. Shushushaya padhanavigyam ananyamanya. Nindadi shunya vidam ipsita sangha labdhya. Krishna, the holy name of Krishna. Iti, thus, yasya, of whom, giri, in the words or speech, tam, him, manasa, by the mind, adriyeta, one must honor, diksha, initiation, asti, there is, chet, if, pranatibhihi, by obeisances, cha, also, bhajantam, engaged in devotional service, isham, unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, shushushaya, by practical service, bhajanavigyam, one who is advanced in devotional service, ananyam, without deviation, anyanindaadi, of blasphemy of others, etc. Shunya, completely devoid, vidam, whose heart, ipsita, desirable, sangha, association, labdhya, by gaining. Translation: one should mentally honor the devotee who chants the holy name of Lord Krishna. One should offer humble obeisances to the devotee who has undergone spiritual initiation or diksha and is engaged in worshipping the deity. And one should associate with and faithfully serve that pure devotee who is advanced in undeviated devotional service and whose heart is completely devoid of the propensity to criticize others. Purport: in order to intelligently apply the sixfold loving reciprocations mentioned in the previous verse, one must select proper persons with careful discrimination. Srila Rupa Goswami therefore advises that we should meet with the Vaishnavas in an appropriate way, according to their particular status. In this verse, he tells us how to deal with three types of devotees: the Kanishta Adhikari, the Madhyama Adhikari, and Uttama Adhikari. The Kanishta Adhikari is a neophyte who has received the Harinam initiation from the spiritual master and is trying to chant the holy name of Krishna. One should respect such a person within his mind as a Kanishta Vaishnav. A Madhyama Adhikari has received spiritual initiation from the spiritual master and has been fully engaged by him in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. The Madhyama Adhikari should be considered to be situated midway in devotional service. The Uttama Adhikari, or highest devotee, is one who is very advanced in devotional service. An Uttama Adhikari is not interested in blaspheming others, his heart is completely clean, and he has attained the realized state of unalloyed Krishna consciousness. According to Srila Rupa Goswami, the association and service of such a Maha-Bhagavat, or perfect Vaishnav, are most desirable. One should not remain a Kanishta Adhikari, one who is situated on the lowest platform of devotional service and is interested only in worshipping the deity in the temple. Such a devotee is described in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 11.247. Archayame baharihe pujam yakshadhaye hate natad bhakteshu chanyeshu sabhakta prakrata smita. A person who is very faithfully engaged in the worship of the deity in the temple, but who does not know how to behave toward devotees or people in general, is called a prakrata bhakta, or Kanishta Adhikari. One therefore has to raise himself from the position of Kanishta Adhikari to the platform of Madhyama Adhikari. The Madhyama Adhikari is described in Srimad Bhagavatam 11.246 in this way. Ishvare tadadhineshu badisheshu dvishatsucha prema maitri kripopeksha yakkaroti samadhyamaha. The Madhyama Adhikari is a devotee who worships the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the highest object of love, makes friends with the Lord's devotees, is merciful to the ignorant, and avoids those who are envious by nature. This is the way to cultivate devotional service properly. Therefore, in this verse, Srila Rupa Goswami has advised us how to treat various devotees. We can see from practical experience that there are different types of Vaishnavas. The Prakrita Sahajiyas generally chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, yet they are attached to women, money, and intoxication. Although such persons may chant the holy name of the Lord, they are not yet properly purified. Such people should be respected within one's mind, but their association should be avoided. Those who are innocent but simply carried away by bad association should be shown favor if they are eager to receive proper instructions from pure devotees. But those neophyte devotees who are actually initiated by the bona fide spiritual master and are seriously engaged in carrying out the orders of the spiritual master should be offered respectful obeisances. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmidatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So practically speaking, Krishna consciousness begins when you are conscious of the need for associating with transcendentalists, and you actually associate. Our whole life is one of choosing to associate. Just to look at something, become interested, and try to investigate it more, this is what's going on every day all over the world, billions of times. Generally, people have a certain habit of who and what they regard as important to associate with or interact with, beginning with family, friends, and pleasurable things, food. And this just becomes totally habitual. However, we learn from the science of Krishna consciousness that choosing Krishna conscious elements of those very things will either give you a chance to open up the path to liberation or a chance to go to hell. What you eat, who you choose to associate with, how you regard your family, how you run your family, what you choose to teach your children and guide them, and like that, and who you pick for your mate and how you interact. All of these things affect one's consciousness. And so here in this verse, Srila Rupa Goswami is giving us some very important instruction on how to associate with different levels of devotees. In the previous verse, he gave a general description of friendly relations with devotees. Dadati prataghunnati guyamakati prichati bhunkte bhojayate chaja shadvada priti lakshanam. These are the symptoms of love, or the activities of affection between devotees. And it's very important to engage in those, because there's no way that one can become Krishna conscious in isolation, and that means we're going to be an association of devotees, and how we interact with them makes all the difference in the world. So, but then there's the question of, well, how to interact differently with different levels of devotees. So the first, Krishneti yasigaditam manasadriyeta, that's the first statement here. And Krishna iti means that the holy name of Krishna, even chanted once by someone, we should offer respect. We find that in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. When it was mentioned who's a devotee, one of these statements was Eka Krishna Nama. If someone chants the name Krishna once, then we should regard them as a devotee of sorts, maybe on the lowest platform, but in our mind we should say, oh, very nice. Out of all the billions and billions and billions of living entities and millions of human beings, this particular one has chanted Krishna. And we know the potency of that name, how the person is purified of so many sinful reactions from so many births. So they're very fortunate who does that. And Srila Prabhupada expands this idea to the idea of the three levels of devotees mentioned in the 11th canto by Krishna in his Uddhava Gita, where he says, Sarva Bhutesha Pashed Bhagavan Bhavamatmanha. bhutani savabhuteshu tassa bhagavata mata, uttama bhagavata, I forget the last line of it. But one who sees Krishna within everything and everything within Krishna, basically, and also sees everyone as a candidate for becoming a devotee, and sees, in fact, everyone engaged in devotional service except himself. This is another way of understanding the verse. That's the Uttama Bhakta. The Uttama Bhakta, if he's on that platform, is not going to preach. He sees everyone as a devotee already. So in order to preach, he has to come down to make the distinctions that the Madhyama Adhikari does. And the Madhyama Adhikari is described as Ishvare Tadadineshu, Bhalisheshu Dvishatsucha, Prema Maitri Kripopeksha, Sakaroti Samadhyama. Yakaroti Samadhyama, sorry. So, he recognizes four categories of being. One is the Ishvara, the Supreme Lord. And the Adineshu, those in relation to him, basically the devotees. The innocent, Balisheshu, who are just confused but are not out-and-out demons and open atheistic, rascals. And then the atheistic rascals who are the lowest. And the Dvishatsu, those are envious of the devotees. So you relate to each category differently. With Krishna, you try to develop pure love. With the devotees, you have friendship. With the innocent, you try to show mercy by giving them Krishna. And with the envious, you avoid. So that's described here. Now Srila Prabhupada says, even the Kanishta, basically his category is someone who's received initiation. But what the verse says is that one who has received initiation, which means that there's some recognition of advancement in devotional service. Certainly in the Hare Krishna movement, you can't just walk in and that day get initiation. Other groups do that, so they sell it much cheaper, and therefore they get cheap initiations. But this is, there's a restriction. It means there's some recognition of purity, self-control. You're chanting every day, a certain minimum number of rounds. So that we offer physical obeisances, vancha kalpatarubhyascha, pranatabhischa bhajantamish. And one who is engaged in devotional service, by practical service, who is advanced in devotional service, and interestingly he gives this qualification of all that he could give, who is devoid of the propensity to criticize others. One should covet such a person's association with great eagerness, because that kind of uttama bhakta, one ananyam bhajgana vigya, means he's realized in bhakti, and without deviation, ahoitukiya patiyata. So, and doesn't have this propensity to criticize others, which means a clean heart. Such a devotee we should desire to associate with, hear from, and serve. So this kind of discrimination is very important, because again, with whom and how you associate is like a huge part of our devotional service of bhakti. And Srila Prabhupada nicely describes these three levels here. Now, the Kanishta is a broad category. Here Prabhupada describes that Archayam eva Hariye, this is from the 12th canto, 11th canto. Archayam actually means the deity, and it can also mean here in general that one shows great respect for the deity. In other words, you just walk in and you're fervently praying to the deity, and you're putting a few coins in the box. And you're praying for something material generally. And then you walk out. The class may be going on, but you're not interested, or you're on your way to work, or whatever, So that kind of relationship just to the deity, but not really showing respect to the devotees, what to speak of outsiders, that's a sure sign of Kanishta. Kanishta means that there's a more or less a material motive there. Krishna speaks in the Gita about that. Someone may come to me, they're pious, but there's a material motive of one kind or another. Arto digyasu artarti jnanicha bhadatarshaba. The most common is the troubled, which includes money troubles, so there's kind of an overlap there. One who wants money and wants something wealth, and has arta. So that's good that they're coming, but that's not an advanced platform of devotional service. And such a person you'll respect in your mind. They may be chanting or respecting the deity, but you're hardly going to covet, hearing from them. You know what I'm saying? So that's the Krishna. And we ourselves want to get off that platform as soon as possible. We don't want to approach Krishna for any material motivation. We're trying to follow the Shikshastika. Nadanam, najanam, nasundarim kavita. No material motivation. So what's the motivation? Just to develop pure love for Krishna. To pray to Him to give you the inspiration to simply work for His pleasure. That's the thing, you know. So, okay. Various devotees. All right. In this Krishna conscious movement, if there's any comment or question, otherwise I'll go on. Go ahead, Prabhu.
On the definition of the Kanishta, the Madhyama, and the Uttama, Madhyama is the middle, right? That's like a translation, the middle devotee. And then Uttama is like great or the greatest or highest.
Yes.
But what about that, breaking down that word Kanishta, you know?
Kanishta.
Yeah.
Well, if you told me beforehand, I would have looked it up in my Sanskrit dictionary.
Mm-hmm.
So you're looking for like the word nishta, which we know means faith. Ka means like cool, bad.
What?
Weak faith. What faith? What faith does he have? I can research that for you.
Right.
That's a very good insight. Yeah.
Because ka means what, right?
Yeah. What faith?
Yeah.
What's the faith?
What faith does he have? Or weak?
Where's your faith?
That'd be interesting because I always think about the middle and the highest, but the Kanishta I never really.
Because actually, there are sometimes in CC the gradation is given in terms of the faith.
Yeah.
So that may be interesting. Yeah. In other words, it's true. They have some faith in the deity. Archayam evaharihe pujam yakshadeyate, with faith. They have some faith in the deity. Otherwise, they wouldn't come before the deity. So that may be, you know, a good insight. That, you know, but where is the nishta? In other words, the preliminary faith, like an adau shraddha, that's not the ultimate faith. The nishta that we find, adau shraddha tatak sadhu sangha the bhajana kriya tato nartadi nisya tato nishta, right? It's way up there in like the 5th position, so it's not easy. And that's described as Shraddha Shabde Vishwaskari Sudidha Nishtroy, firm conviction, unbreakable conviction that just by practicing bhakti to Krishna, that all your aspirations will be fulfilled. So that's certainly not there in the Kanishta. He's got so many other things to do, but one of the things that he does do is come into the temple and a little bit, you know, and on holidays come, you know. So okay, we'll research that. That's a very interesting comment.
What about that? They have that saying, ignorance is bliss,
yeah,
where wisdom is folly. So what exactly are they referring to folly?
Folly means foolishness.
Well, why would it say wisdom is foolishness?
In other words, where the wise are thought to be fools, then ignorance is bliss.
Mm-hmm. And,
you know, Prabhupada is very conscious of that, because here we are, you know, he's coming to America, and nobody knows that what he's teaching is the ultimate wisdom. Mm-hmm. And you know, the devotees go out and they dressed in sheets, you know, and as we've described, most people think we're nuts, especially in the early days. Yeah. Both the men and the women, they just had different colors. So where wisdom is folly, is that what it says? Yeah. Ignorance is bliss. Yeah, I have to look that one up. But that's the idea, is that people don't know what really, you know, what's going on. And so they adopt so many ideas and philosophies and ways of life that seem okay at the time, and then they see everything through that lens, and you know, anything like the Krishna consciousness, which is a whole lifestyle and culture, it just looks like it's complete foolishness. You're wasting your time. You're wasting.
They consider what we consider wisdom.
Exactly. It's just like in the Gita. Yeah, it's like the wise soul, you know, is awake when the foolish soul is asleep. You see, you know, that's the way it goes. Okay, so in the Krishna consciousness movement, a chance is given to everyone without discrimination of caste, creed, or color. Everyone is invited to join this movement, sit with us, take prasadam, and hear about Krishna. Yeah. When we see that someone is actually interested in Krishna consciousness and wants to be initiated, we accept him as a disciple for the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. So this is the famous Harinama initiation. When a neophyte devotee is actually initiated and engaged in devotional service by the orders of the spiritual master, he should be accepted immediately as a bona fide Vaishnava, and obeisances should be offered unto him. This is Dikshasti Chepadana Bhajana. Out of many such Vaishnavas, one may be found to be very seriously engaged in the service of the Lord and strictly following all the regulative principles, chanting the prescribed number of rounds on japa beads, and always thinking of how to expand the Krishna consciousness movement. Such a Vaishnava should be accepted as an Uttama Adhikari, a highly advanced devotee, and his association should always be sought. This was really a critical sentence back in the old days when the new gurus were trying to get some traction, you know? Because there's so many places where Prabhupada, I think right in this book, he says one should be sure to take initiation from an Uttama Adhikari. Well, that's Prabhupada. Prabhupada's an Uttama Adhikari. We're not Uttama Adhikaris. What are we going to do? But there, this definition, you know, is possible. Strictly following regular principle, chanting on your beads, and always thinking of how to, you know, preach. And that's really, those are the devotees who are best at preaching and organizing preaching, who Prabhupada chose to be the original 11. Unfortunately, they couldn't, you know, many of them couldn't stay on a platform. Can we turn it off completely, please? Okay. So, but here it is. Uttama Adhikari is this definition, always strictly chanting, and figuring out how to expand Krishna consciousness movement. Now, Prabhupada says in another place that the best way to control the mind is to always be thinking of how to spread Krishna consciousness. Interesting. The process by which a devotee becomes attached to Krishna is described in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antya 4:192. Diksha kale bhakta kade atma samarpan, se kale Krishna tare kade atma sam. At the time of initiation, when a devotee fully surrenders to the service of the Lord, Krishna accepts him to be as good as he himself. Okay. Interesting. Diksha, or spiritual initiation, is explained in the Bhakti Sandarbha by Srila Jiva Goswami. This famous verse, Divyam Jnanam Yato Dadyat Kuryat Papasya Sankshayam Tasmat Diksheti Sa Prokta Deshikais Tatval Kovidai. By Diksha, one gradually becomes disinterested in material enjoyment and gradually becomes interested in spiritual life. In this translation, he doesn't mention it, that he does elsewhere in the CC. It's the process by which you get divine knowledge. Divyam Jnanam Yato Dadyat. We have seen many practical examples of this, especially in Europe and America. Obviously, this was before it got really big in India. Many students who come to us from rich and respectable families quickly lose all interest in material enjoyment and become very eager to enter into spiritual life. You may have been thinking of your Gurudev then. The rich, you know, the $1 million temptation. You've heard of that? How many of us really would have been able to do it? Well, look, I'll take the $1 million and I'll run back to the temple. Although they come from very wealthy families, many of them accept living conditions that are not very comfortable. Now he's thinking of Bombay, I'm sure. Indeed, for Krishna's sake, they are prepared to accept any living condition as long as they can live in the temple and associate with the Vaishnavas. When one becomes so disinterested in material enjoyment, he becomes fit for initiation by the spiritual master. For the advancement of spiritual life, Srimad Bhagavatam 6.113 prescribes, Tapasa brahmacharyena shamena cha damena cha. When a person is serious about accepting diksha, he must be prepared to practice austerity, celibacy, and control of the mind and body. If one is so prepared and is desirous of receiving spiritual enlightenment, divyam jnanam, he is fit for being initiated. Divyam jnanam is technically called tadvijnana, or knowledge about the Supreme. Tadvijnanartam sagurum eva vigachet. When one is interested in the transcendental subject matter of the absolute truth, he should be initiated. Such a person should approach a spiritual master in order to take diksha. Srimad Bhagavatam 11.321 also prescribes Tasmad gurum papaddeta jigyasu shreya uttamam. When one is actually interested in the transcendental science of the absolute truth, he should approach a spiritual master. So, a lot about Diksha. Now, sometimes I was recently asked about this verse in purport, which I'm just going to read to you. This is also about Diksha. This is Madhya 15:108. I remember the verse number. Actually, you'll see that verses numbered 108 are often very critical, important. There are 108 verses in the chapter describing Haridas Thakur's disappearance. Not an accident. Okay, so in this verse, Lord Chaitanya is answering this question of Satyaraj Khan. Verse 105 in that chapter says, let's see, what did he hear? Okay, so Lord Chaitanya replied, let's see. My dear Lord, it's a question from Satyaraj Khan. My dear Lord, being a householder and a materialistic man, I do not know the process of advancing in spiritual life. I therefore submit myself unto your lotus feet and request you to give me orders. So what do you think he said? He said, Krishna Seva, Vaishnav Sevan, Nirantara Kara Krishna Nama Sankirtan. Without cessation, continue chanting the holy name of Lord Krishna. Whenever possible, serve him and his devotees, the Vaishnavas. And Satyaraj, upon hearing this, Satyaraj said, how can I recognize a Vaishnav? Because he has to serve them. Please let me know what a Vaishnav is. What are his common symptoms? So Lord Chaitanya says, Yanra Mukhe Shuni Ek Bar Krishna Nam Se Puja Shreshta Sabakar. Whoever chants the holy name of Krishna just once is worshipable and is the topmost human being. Got that? There it is. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati reiterates and says that a person who simply chants the holy name of Krishna once becomes perfect and should be regarded as a Vaishnava. Now, strictly speaking, one cannot chant the holy name of Krishna once. You know why? Because the very word chant, if you look it up in the dictionary, you'll find means to repeat. Repeat. But we let that one go. The idea is that if you utter it just once, then, and then he quotes the verse we're working on, Krishneti yasigaditang manasadriyeta. We just read it, it's right here. With such faith in the holy name, one may begin a life of Krishna consciousness. So Krishna iti means chanting once. Lord Chaitanya goes on, we're in verse 107, so listen. Simply by chanting the holy name of Krishna once, a person is relieved from all the reactions of a sinful life. One can complete the 9 processes of devotional service simply by chanting the holy name. Now, verse 108. One does not have to undergo initiation or execute the activities required before initiation. One simply has to vibrate the holy name with his lips. Thus even a man in the lowest class, Chandala, can be delivered. This one needs a purport. And we have it, long one. 15:108 in Madhya Lila. Jiva Goswami explains Diksha in the Bhakti Sindarbha, and this is the very verse we just heard. Divyam Gyanam Yato Dadyat Kuryat Papasya Sankshayam. Now, this has a little different translation Prabhupada gives. Diksha is the process by which one can awaken his transcendental knowledge and vanquish all reactions caused by sinful activity. A person expert in the study of the revealed scriptures knows this process as Diksha, and this is one of the favorite verses of the Ritviks. Because they say that, well, we're just studying Prabhupada's books. We're in the process of developing transcendental knowledge. We're initiated by Prabhupada. I may be 25 years old right now, but I'm still initiated by Prabhupada. Because I'm... No, this Divyam Gyanam verse, which was also quoted in the purport that we read here. So, but anyway, that aside, going on. The regulative principles of Diksha are explained in Hari Bhakti Vilas. He quotes another verse here. Even though born in a Brahmin family, one can engage in Vedic rituals without being initiated and having a sacred thread. Although born in a Brahmin family, one becomes a Brahmin only after initiation and the sacred thread. Unless one is initiated as a Brahmin, one cannot worship the holy name properly. So now we have 2 things going on. One is this stricture of you can't worship the deity without being initiated. And Lord Chaitanya says, as far as chanting goes, you don't have to be initiated. You can become completely perfect and go way beyond Brahmin just by chanting. So we're still on that the purport here. One doesn't have to go initiation, but let's go on. So, according to Vaishnava regulative principles, one must be initiated as a Brahmin. The Hari Bhakti Vilas quotes the following injunction from Vishnu Yamala, Adikshitasya: unless one is initiated by the bona fide spiritual master, all his devotional activities are useless. A person who is not properly initiated can descend again into the animal species. So now he says it's really important to be initiated. So there seems to be some conflict here. It's eventually resolved. Hari Bhakti Vilas further: it is the duty of every human being to surrender to a bona fide spiritual master. Giving him everything, body, mind, and intelligence, one must take Vaishnava initiation from him. Bhakti Sandarbha gives the following quote. This is by Jiva Goswami, but it's quoted from the Tattva Sagara. By chemical manipulation, bell metal is turned into gold when touched by mercury. Similarly, when a person is properly initiated, he can acquire the qualities of a Brahman. Now, Prabhupada would quote this verse a lot, because in the early days there was a huge wave of opposition from the God brothers and Indians about, initiating lechas and yavan as Brahmins who would go on the altar. When they started seeing, white faces on the altar, then this was probably, hey, yata kanchanatam yati. Bell metal could be transformed into gold by alchemical process. Similarly, these lechas and yavas can be transformed into bona fide Brahmins. Hari Bhakti Vilas discussing Purishcharya. Purishcharya is what you do before initiation. Prabhupada had like 6 months to a year, testing and testing. That's how he took that as Purishcharya. In the morning and afternoon and evening, one should worship the deity, chant Hare Krishna mantra, offer oblations, perform fire. These 5 activities constitute Purishcharya. To attain full success when taking initiation from spiritual master, one should first perform these Purishcharya processes. So Prabhupada's Purishcharya wasn't that, it was just living in the temple, following the 4 regs, chanting Hare Krishna, minimum 16 rounds. Okay, Prabhupada says, due to the necessity of these activities, we do not immediately initiate disciples into ISKCON. For 6 months, a candidate for initiating must first attend RT classes, shastras, practice regular principles, etc. Then he's recommended by the President. He gives the whole thing. Now, without performing Purishcharya activities, one can't become perfect even by chanting this mantra for hundreds of years, but it doesn't say the Hare Krishna mantra. But one who has undergone the Purishcharya vidya can attain it. Okay. Now, here's the resolution. And I've been waiting for this. I got to give you a little editing pastime here. This book, especially Madhya Lila, this was part of the 17 books marathon. There's a huge rush here. There's a tremendous amount of Sanskrit here. The Sandarbhas are written in prose mostly. Very difficult to, just to really figure out what it means. So there was a rush. They didn't have time. This huge Sanskrit, which I'm not going to read, it's like a big 2 paragraphs of prose Sanskrit, were just left in the purport. There was no translation. So when I was revising the CC, I got in touch with my good friend Gopi Dravida Prabhu. This is back in 94, 95. And I had him translate this, and here's the translation. It starts out with a little shocker. It is the Srimad Bhagavatam's opinion that the process of deity worship is not actually necessary, just as the specific prescriptions of the Pancharatra and other scriptures do not have to be followed. The Bhagavatam enjoins that even without practicing deity worship, one can achieve the complete success of human life by any of the other devotional processes, such as simply offering oneself at the Lord's feet for his protection. Nonetheless, Vaishnavas following the path of Narada, that's us, and his successors, endeavor to establish a personal relationship with the Lord by receiving the grace of a bona fide spiritual master through initiation. And in this tradition, the devotees are obliged at the time of initiation to begin engaging in deity worship. So here, initiation is obviously being taken as what we call Brahman initiation. Although deity worship is not essential, now he's writing 500 years ago, but listen to what he says. Although deity worship is not essential, the material conditioning of most candidates for devotional service requires that they engage in this activity. When we consider their bodily and mental conditions, you can imagine now what we got this 500 years ago in India. When we consider their bodily and mental conditions, we find that the character of such candidates is impure and their minds are agitated. Therefore, to rectify this material conditioning, the great sage Narada and others have at different times recommended various kinds of regulations for deity worship. So the idea is that eventually, I mean, most of us don't go on the altar, obviously, but to come before the deity and do what we do, the bowing down and the chanting and doing it regularly and praying, this is a form of deity worship. In fact, it's said the deity worship isn't even complete without chanting, without a kirtan going on. So that includes those who don't go on the altar. But eventually, one should aspire, if he is a Harinam initiation, to take a Brahman initiation and do some deity worship. So this applies to us, and this is why Diksha is essential. Similarly, Ramcharan, then he quotes a couple more things. O best of the Brahmins, even without initiation, preliminary purification, or acceptance of the renounced order, one can attain perfection in devotional service simply by chanting the Lord's holy name. So here's going back to the other side. In other words, the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra is so powerful that it doesn't depend on official initiation. But if one is initiated and engages in Pancharatra Vidhi, deity worship, his Krishna consciousness will awaken very soon, and his identification with the material world will be vanquished. The more one is freed from material identification, the more one can realize that the spirit soul is qualitatively as good as the Supreme Lord. Okay. So the point is that to have the best chance to really chant the holy name purely, one needs to take initiation and surrender to the regulations that keep us pure. You can read it and you say, "Oh, I'm just going to go chant," but what really happens with that? If you don't have good association, the chances are that you'll fall into the Prakrita Sahajiya group, or take it, start chanting other things. You go to the Bhakti Fest and get in touch with all kinds of things, and who knows what, So Prabhupada, I mean, Bhakti Fest has its good elements too, but the chances are, if you have refused to take initiation, in other places Prabhupada says we should always know that one who's reluctant to take initiation is putting a brake on his Krishna consciousness, because it's important. So then, Prabhupada, he goes on. Here's one from the Adi Lila. Krishna mantra hoite habe sangsara mochan. Simply by chanting the holy name of Krishna, one can obtain freedom from material existence. Indeed, simply by chanting Hare Krishna mantra, one will be able to see the lotus feet of the Lord. And Prabhupada goes on and explains, the offenseless chanting of the holy name does not depend on the initiation process. Although initiation may depend on Purishcharya or Purishcharana, the actual chanting of the holy name does not depend on Purishcharya Vidhi, or the regulative principles. If one chants the holy name even once without committing an offense, he attains all success. During the chanting of the holy name, the tongue must work. Simply by chanting holy, one must immediately is delivered. Okay. Anyway, take it what it is. It's Prabhupada's books he's explaining. But in the society, as Prabhupada set it up, he saw that it's very important for people to aspire for initiation, become regulated in that way. Otherwise, they come and go, and it's not possible. Okay, on that basis, if there's nothing further, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.